So I am going to go ahead and get started with our fabulous RooLive career webinar. Welcome to those who are joining us, whether you're joining us on Zoom or on Facebook or YouTube, whatever the case may be. We're so happy to have you. I am joined again by the fabulous Dr. Nell Ostermeier, who is so generous with her time to come and speak with all of our Roowers out there. I'm going to start just by giving the briefest of introductions about Roo, what we are and what we do, and then I'm just going to hand it right over to Dr. Nell so we can dive in to this really new, but not so new world of telehealth and telemedicine in the veterinary world. If you are new to Roo, you haven't heard of us before, we are a first of its kind online revolutionary platform for relief staffing. We have made our way across the great state of Texas, and just recently, we're very excited, we rolled out in Los Angeles, California. So hopefully we have some West Coasters joining us. And I know, Dr. Nell, that means you can also now start working relief with Roo.
Yes, I'm licensed in California and Oregon.
Heck yeah. And what really sets Roo apart is the fact that we have put all of the control for relief staffing into the hands of the practitioners, of the vets, of the techs, and of the practice managers. Everything is online. You create a free account. You post your shifts, you request, you book. All of it is really easy and tracked in our easy to use website. But you know, we're not absent. We're here to provide a personal touch as well. And one of the ways that we like to provide that personal touch is by hosting occasionally these educational type webinars for our users and for the greater veterinary world at large. And obviously a topic of right now in this current COVID-19 environment is telemedicine. And we have been forced as an industry to completely rewrite our playbook as to how we interact with our patients and our clients. And for some people, it might feel really new and really foreign. And so what we've hopefully put together for you tonight is an opportunity to really get a better understanding of how to totally maximize the virtual vet visit. So without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Nell. If you have questions, just put it into the little Q&A or the chat. If you're watching on Facebook, you can also comment there. I will be monitoring both. And with that, take it away, Dr. Nell.
Okay, well, thank you so much. I'm really happy to be back, and I'm excited to talk about the virtual aspects of veterinary visits. But before that, I do want to share a little bit about me, not too much. Like many of you, I tend to wear a lot of hats. My hats might look different than your hats, but I know as a community, as a veterinary community, we tend to be the types of people that wear many. And what I'm hoping is that after this evening, you won't look at being a virtual care provider, whether that's in the veterinary support team aspect or the veterinarian aspect, as just another hat. And I'm just going to touch on the hats that I currently wear that are going to be most applicable to you, the Roo audience, and to our topic of virtual vet visits. So first of all, I was a relief vet. It was actually my first veterinary business. When I left my associate vet job in 2006, I immediately formed my own relief business, and that was my first adult venture into entrepreneurship. Oh, what am I doing here? Sorry, my little clicker there. I wanted my relief vet to flash there, to be emphasized, because I think it's so important that you know that I once walked in your shoes. And then as a practice owner, I also walked in the shoes of the folks that are hiring you. And then as far as entrepreneurship, that's another place where I tend to wear a virtual hat. I've been an entrepreneur since I was about 6 years old, and in conjunction with my brothers and my cousins, we ran a family operated sweet corn stand in our small town. So started about the age of 6, and it just kind of keeps on coming. I transitioned out of practice ownership so that I could start my own vet to vet consulting business. And the idea of People and Pet Integrative was born out of me wanting to help other vets integrate acupuncture and other alternative modalities into practice. But interestingly enough, with the COVID situation, I actually now have a vet to pet owner facing aspect of that business. So not only am I conducting virtual visits at the freestanding practice that I used to own, but I'm also conducting them virtually through my own practice in the home. So we're going to touch on both of those. And then lastly, I am still doing the virtual consulting. I am working with other veterinarians in a variety of aspects on improving their practice, whether it's integrative or from a team engagement standpoint or communication or developing processes. And I recently created my first online course. So in just 9 months, I've honestly kind of really built a lot of skills around being in the virtual world. And I'm just by nature one of those people, when I work through something and I learn something and I go through the pains of developing a process, I want to share what I've learned with others, so maybe they don't have to go through the same pains or as many pains as I did. And that's why I'm here today. Also because I'm a human, I'm a pet owner, I'm a traveler, I love to be outdoors. And that human aspect is where our entire community, that includes our veterinary owner community, where we can all come together and help each other out. So that's what tonight's about. It's about trying to help each other out in this new era of veterinary medicine, where we can actually draw from a lot of skills that probably aren't so new. Okay. So I kind of talked a little bit about why I'm here. I'm here to share. And I told you that I'm practicing both in the home as a virtual veterinarian and at a freestanding practice as a veterinarian. And I wanted to share a little bit about how and why I integrated virtual. Well, the why is probably the same reason that many of you share. When COVID hit, we just kind of had to figure out how we were going to service our patients and clients without being able to have face-to-face contact. So that was the trigger. That was the disruption that has actually catapulted us into this very exciting phase where we can more, I would say we have more opportunities than we have had in the past to actually earn our value during these virtual or telehealth consults. It's kind of been something we've always given away for free in the past. And of course, we're still going to answer phones and give advice and chat with owners about whether or not they need to be seen. But there's a lot of what we were doing on the phone and on video where we weren't receiving the value. So 9 months ago, I don't know if we were all in the same shoes, but the shoes I was in, I was doing very little virtual work. I really didn't have any experience in Zooming. I really hadn't ever connected with a patient and a client at the same time over video. I hadn't tried to complete a video exam. So all of these things were new for me. And there were a lot of growing pains in integrating those into both my people and pet practice from the home as well as at the hospital. So what was the solution? Well, I really kind of chunked it down into, what are the soft skills that I need? What qualities do I need to be successful here? And what is the process that I need to be successful? And we're going to work on that today during this presentation. And the outcome, well, the outcome, you've already seen it. The outcome is what I showed on that first slide, where I am today, having successful, fun virtual visits, enjoyable virtual visits, both in my home and at the freestanding hospital I work in. Now, my goals for you and for I, through our conversation tonight, are for us to acknowledge and embrace that virtual is valuable and it's going to be part of our future. What I'm not going to do tonight is tell you exactly what to do step by step to conduct a virtual visit. Those are things you can do at home after we kind of cover the foundation. And the first step is to acknowledge and accept. And I know that in our field, we're in many, many different places. Okay. So some of us are really excited about being virtual. Some of us are seeing the possibility. Some of us are apprehensive. We don't even want to get started with it. We're scared of the tech. Maybe we're even underwhelmed about the possibility, like kind of almost like aloof in a way that this just doesn't seem like real veterinary medicine. So wherever you are, I'm just encouraging you to take a step back and maybe think about the advantages of conducting a virtual visit or being able to connect through a client without making face-to-face or in-room contact, okay? So just maybe think about that as we go along. And then we're gonna look at ways to improve the virtual experience for everyone, not just for the client, but also for the veterinarian and the veterinary team. If the veterinarian and the team feel better about the experience that they're providing, if they feel that that experience is really valuable, then we will be able to enjoy this style of patient care instead of look at it maybe as a drag or a stress or just another hat to wear. And when I talk about virtual tonight, I'm actually not just speaking about teletriage or entirely virtual visits where we don't see the pet at all. I'm also going to speak to the virtual aspect of the curbside model, which is maybe something you haven't thought about. That's right, the virtual aspect of the curbside model, because guess what? Even though we get to see the pets and we have our hands on the pet, the part of that visit, the part with the client is actually virtually sorry, I am stumbling. And this is one of my main points. Isn't that just the way? See how sometimes video can be hard, but we're working on it. It's a work in progress. So let me say again is that curbside visits are actually virtual for our clients because they don't get to be in the room and we're communicating with them either on the phone or on video. So how do we make our virtual program a success? And I call it a program because, like I said, it could encompass several different types of appointments. The types where we never have the patient in our hands, or the type where the client doesn't get to be in the room with us. It could be anything from triage to conducting an entire appointment with an assessment and a plan. So we're calling it a program because we want to cover all the aspects. Now, I could hand you a step-by-step structural plan on how to conduct a visit, but each of our practices is unique. So I really feel like that would be a waste of our time. Besides, structure is necessary, but without meaning and feeling, it will fizzle. So instead, what we're going to do this evening is we're going to create a foundation for success through developing what I call the 4 C's. So the 4 C's, what are they? Confidence, connection, communication, and closure. Now you're probably thinking, wait, we need those in everyday veterinary medicine anyway. You're right. But tonight we're going to be focusing on how these 4 C's actually apply and can enhance or make or break your virtual program, your virtual experience. If you work toward mastering these C's, you will be your virtual best. It will be more fun because everyone, you, whether you're the technician or the doctor, everyone, including you and the clients, are going to feel more comfortable with the process because it's going to become more natural. It's going to be more autopilot. You're going to have muscle memory. And each one of the C's carries its own weight, so it stands alone, but also they all kind of feed into each other. They're all interconnected. So let's get started on how we can develop the C's, or the foundation for our success. Starting with confidence. The number one hurdle to having a successful virtual visit is usually the doctor or you, or if you're the veterinary technician and you're providing triage, it could be you. So it's all about having confidence in yourself as the professional, as the expert. You need to feel confident. So feel confident, at least mostly confident. We'll get to that later. And you need to be able to put that client at ease. Okay. You also need to feel like what you're delivering is valuable, and you can deliver expert advice, just as valuable expert advice, through a video or through a phone call as you can if that pet is actually in the room. Okay. So we need to make sure we're confident in what we've learned, our skills, and what we bring to that client. We also need to be confident in the process, the logistics, the fact that we need to feel comfortable with the steps involved in this virtual visit and the tech involved. I think technology is one of the things that causes our teams the most stress if they're not feeling comfortable with it. And for veterinarians out there who maybe are feeling less than tech savvy, a lot of our veterinary support team tends to be more tech savvy than we are. So let's do it as a team. Let's get comfortable with that tech. And we're also going to talk about how we can get more and more comfortable as we jump into further aspects of the 4Cs. And so lastly, and ultimately, if we have confidence in ourselves and we have confidence in the process, then I guarantee you that the client or the pet parent is going to have confidence that they're going to get what they need. And that really is what's most important. Now, I said earlier, you need to feel really confident. And what I probably should have said is that you need to convey confidence. It's, of course, helpful if you're feeling confident. But I wanted to share this quote by Tony Robbins, who, if you don't know who he is, I mean, most people do. He's a guru in the life coaching, business coaching, public speaking world. And what he says is that confidence doesn't mean that you feel 100% confident all of the time. Rather, it is that you immediately put the customer at ease and that you talk to them with conviction and sincerity. Okay. Conviction and sincerity shouldn't be hard for us because we are experts in our field. We know what we're doing and we know how to recommend what's best for our pets. One of the best ways to feel confident about these virtual visits that we're providing is to recognize, and I know I've said this once already, and yep, I'm going to say it again, is that virtual is valuable. This may not be a hurdle for all of you, but I find in speaking with veterinarians, oftentimes there's a little hang up inside internally that what we bring on a video or how we assess a pet and make a plan on a video or over the phone is not as valuable as that patient and client being in the room. And I'm just going to reiterate here, you need to own that what you're bringing, this expertise and the plan that you're going to create is just as valuable. Another aspect of this would be in providing clients with what they need not to come into the veterinarian. That is also really valuable. So teletriage has kind of mushroomed a little bit. And sometimes it mushrooms so much that we as the veterinary team give more information than we should for free. We need to accrue some value for what we're providing for the pet owners so that they can stay home. Okay. So virtual is valuable. And another way to build our confidence, and I said I would get around to this, is prep and practice, okay? You need to spend time creating the process. You've got to put effort and energy into the setup, and then you need to practice. So develop first and then implement. For example, I recommend that you have the whole team give feedback from your reception staff to your technical staff to your doctors, everybody in the hospital that's going to have contact with that patient or client, whether it's curbside or through a virtual visit, so that each person is really confident in their role, the expectations of that role, and what they're providing with that role. And I can't emphasize enough the value behind mock visits. So you'll see later on in this presentation that we did some mock visits at my practice in order to become more comfortable. As you practice, you'll become more comfortable with the technology. So if that's your big hurdle, the more that you do it, the more that you work through the glitches. And trust me, in almost every video consult, there will probably be a glitch. Just like in almost every presentation I've done in the last 9 months, in the practice session, there's been a glitch that we've had to work out, including tonight. You know, we couldn't actually get my sound turned on. So it doesn't really matter how many times you've done it. Each situation might have a bit of a unique spin that you need to work through. And the more that you do it, the more that you'll be comfortable actually working through those glitches. So that's the logical part of setting up a healthy, successful virtual program, you know, creating the process and then practicing it. But logic just isn't enough. For the best success, we really have to satisfy the emotional piece of the vet visit. And that piece is connection. This goes for both the complete or 100% virtual visits and the curbside. Okay. This connection is important not only for the satisfaction of the client, but I think for us as a team. And I know that we as the veterinary industry and as key players in the veterinary industry are finding a lot of positives in working with the curbside model and working with telemedicine, but it really isn't all about us. And I also know that there's been a lot of wonderful feedback from clients about how convenient the curbside process is and how smooth it is and how impressed they are that we've gotten it in place. But what else do pet parents say about telemedicine and curbside, even when they're satisfied? What is missing? I'm just going to share a few quotes with you from some magazine articles and some online articles that I've read over and personal experience. So Sparky was freaking out. It was nerve-wracking and not being able to go in there with, it was nerve-wracking not being able to go in there with him. I'd just rather be in there with my dog. I miss interacting with the people I've gotten to know so well over the years. I consider the team at the vet my friends. I have a feeling a lot of you out there have clients like this, the clients that don't just come to the vet to care for their pet, but also for the social aspect of connecting with you. And in many instances, the same is true for us. We like connecting with them. I want to share that all three of these quotes came from clients who actually rated their curbside or virtual visit at very high. You know, they had high ratings for both the process and the outcome of the visit. But even with that, they still felt like there was something missing. So how do we fix this? How can we improve or enhance the virtual experience and make a deeper connection with our clients and sustain that connection while we're going more virtual? Some of you will like the answer and some of you won't. The answer is that video fills the void. Yes, I am asking you to do the wave for video. I'm asking you to stand up for it, embrace it, and love it because your clients do. Your clients love video. There are oodles of white papers on how people respond more to video than they do to definitely text, and of course, definitely to communicating over the phone, and lastly to even images. Now you can use video, and I suggest that you try this live during your curbside appointments. That was something I started immediately, was getting a computer set up in my exam room so that I could actually be live during the video. This is a great way to connect. But if you're not comfortable being live during the visit, or if it's just not an option for you, maybe you don't have that technological capability within your practice, what I want to let you know is that it can be just as effective to share video after the appointment as it is to share video during the appointment. So you don't need to be under the microscope. You don't necessarily need to be live, although we'll talk about advantages of that later. So let me just share this quick video with you that I shared with my client after her curbside visit. Okay, this is my patient Stanley. He just had his laser treatment for stiffness in his back and supporting his kidneys. Good boy, and he's very happy, as you can see. And now that he had his treatment, he gets to have his treat. Good boy. Good boy. All right, Stanley. Let's see, what else can you do, buddy? Can you stand up? Good boy. Good boy. And can you come over here? Oh, I'm not sure what command that was, but it was cute. Okay, good job, buddy. See you next time. Okay, so there are just so many great things about sharing that video with my client. And then even beyond that, we shared it on social media because I explained what I was doing. It made me look like a human. It showed, most importantly, it showed that Stanley was actually happy and enjoying his appointment. And what's really interesting about Stanley is that he is a combination back pain and anxiety patient that I treat. And he doesn't actually love having his acupuncture. But I was able to put his client at ease who was a bit skeptical about these visits without her in the room, because I sent her this video afterwards and it just showed that Stanley really is having a good time at his visits. So that's just one example. If you don't have the capability or the time to video, even quick snapshots of the pet, and it doesn't have to be while we're doing some like gross veterinary treatment, like taking their temperature or giving a vaccine, just showing that we're human and that we enjoy working with their pet. It's enough to really strengthen the connection. Enough about connection. Let's move on to communication. Wow. So that's a pretty huge topic and we can't cover it all in the span of this evening. Big surprise. So we're going to try to narrow it down to just what is going to have the greatest impact on a virtual visit. So first of all, we're going to touch on, or we're going to speak about the pre-appointment, what we can do ahead of time, and then what we can do, some tips for within appointment communication. Number one thing is in the pre-appointment phase is letting clients know what to expect from us and also letting the clients know what we expect from them. So it's all about setting the expectations and making it easier for everybody, making it easier for you, the veterinary team, as well as the client. When they know what to expect, they feel more at ease. No one likes surprises, especially when it comes to pet care. They don't want surprises or unknowns with their pets. Just like we as veterinarians don't really like surprises because we'd really like to know why that pet is coming in. There's nothing, well, I guess there are probably a few things more stressful, but one of the most stressful things about our job is when the patient comes in for a routine follow-up or an annual exam, and then all of a sudden they show up at the appointment and we hear about 4 to 5 major problems that really do not fall into the routine exam category, right? So letting them know what we want them to communicate to us prior to the virtual visit can be helpful so that we can plan, so that we can strategize, so that we can have the proper preparation for working with their pet, and letting them know what the process is going to look like will take the unknown out of the equation so that they can be at ease. Also, if we let them know what we want to know prior to the visit, then we can get right into the meat of the appointment. I think a lot of vets who conduct these virtual visits really feel like the value is in the assessment and the plan. And so if we've already covered a lot of that preliminary information, we can dig right in and start getting into those high value sections of the appointment, which are, what do we think is happening? Why do we think it's happening with the pet? And how can we help the pet get better? How can we help the client improve their pet's health condition? What is going to be best for that pet's future? There are many different ways that you could choose to deliver a pre-visit package. I do recommend that you include video, big surprise. And I'm going to share a couple really brief intro clips that we had. This is back from March when I was first getting comfortable with video. And trust me, you probably can tell, I twist up my words sometimes. There are times when I don't make eye contact. It's a work in progress. You don't have to be perfect at video to share video. And it's really going to make you, the human, come across to your clients. So let's just look at two quick intros as to how you can use video to convey the process to clients. Here's the first one. Hi there, I'm Dr. Nell, and I'm here today to just maybe give you some insight into what telehealth means for our pets. Okay, so that was the first one. And then,
And one of the tools that we can use that we have at our fingertips is to use telehealth. So if you're wondering how that works, my assistant Sherry and I, along with our assistant Vinny, are going to give you a little bit of insight.
okay, so like I said, I'm showing you these videos, and there's two reasons I chose these from really early on in my practice's process of developing a virtual program. One is because these are kind of dry and boring, and you can see I am not a star. You do not need to be a star to get the points across to your clients. We posted these on social media and sent them out in email, and our clients love them. So you may not think you're a star, but the fact that you're just making the effort, and the fact that clients, and in Oregon, since we clients, and I was going to say, and new clients, I know that's not an option in every single state, but in Oregon, we can actually establish the patient veterinarian relationship via video now. So that's been waived during the COVID era. You'll have to look into laws for you, but this allows them to see at least a doctor who's going to be working with their pet. So if they've never been to your practice, it's helpful for them to put a face to a person that may be working with their pet. It doesn't matter if the appointment's not with me. It's just the fact that they're seeing a doctor explaining what is going to happen. And of course, the videos went on to talk more about the process. The other reason I chose to share these is because I wanted you to see that it can just be really simple. You don't have to get fancy. I'm just here in my exam room, and then I'm just going to go over a mock visit with the clients via the video that we shared on social media and email, so that they know what to expect. Okay. So that's just a one way that you can deliver a lot of information to your clients pre-visit about what they can expect. As far as collecting information, forms and emails tend to work the best. And that's what we finally implemented at our practice after several months of not having any pre-visit preparation or paperwork, which I do not recommend. So what about within appointment communication and how that applies to virtual? Well, whether you're doing video or you're doing phone consults, the verbal aspect is what is going to, it's what you're going to use. The verbal aspect of either being on the phone or being on video is what you're going to use to convey clarity and logic behind your assessments and your treatment plans. And I've said it before, clarity and logic are not enough. The client also needs that emotional piece to be satisfied. So our nonverbal cues are what we use to convey emotion and authenticity. I think it's pretty obvious that video is going to be superior at conveying the nonverbal cues. So once again, I'm really encouraging you that if it's possible, you use video during your virtual visit rather than doing a telephone consult. Telephone wise, you can use voice inflections. We've all been doing it for years when we deliver news to our clients over the phone or lab results, etc. But those are kind of like snapshots and not usually very lengthy conversations. Here we're actually trying to establish the value and enhance the experience of a full visit. So highly encourage you to use the video. And I've included here some tips for building your confidence in video and conveying your message both clearly and with authenticity, and hopefully in an enjoyable way for you. So number one, set up your space and minimize distractions. If it's in your home, it's lovely because you can usually find a room where you can shut the door and eliminate background noise. I guess that's not always the case if you're an at-home mom, or if you have a lot of pets or a bird, an African gray like I do. Sometimes that becomes a challenge. But set up your space and minimize distractions. At the hospital, if you're doing it in the clinic or hospital environment, I recommend being in an exam room if that's possible, especially if that allows you the option to not wear your mask. Because of course, our nonverbal cues are going to be even better if we don't have to wear a mask. And I realize that may not be possible for everyone, but if the rules allow for it and the space allows for it, You can be in a room alone. You don't have to have the mask, and it's definitely more enjoyable for you and gets your nonverbal cues to the client in a more effective way. Have your pre-visit notes and paperwork accessible. I don't think that should be anything new for any of us, but it's just a reminder that you may, if you don't have two computer screens or your software doesn't have the capability to make notes and write your charts at the same time as being on camera, you're going to want to have note-taking materials. So notes from the client about why their pet's being seen, and then notes that you're taking as far as what you need to do when you go to write up that chart. Breathing exercises. I can't believe how many veterinarians, including myself, honestly, are a little more apprehensive or nervous about being on a video appointment as compared to being in the exam room live. And now maybe that's just because we're used to it, or maybe it just feels more natural. But one thing I like to do if I'm feeling stressed or anxious or a little nervous about getting on that video screen is to do some breathing exercises. One that can reduce cortisol is just to simply take deep breaths, open your hands and your arms into cactus, which is like so, and just allow your chest to open up so that you don't have so much cortisol flowing. It's been proven through research that we can actually reduce that if we just use a little bit of hand motions and we open up that chest. So breathing exercises, maybe just take a few deep breaths before you get on to the visit and calm your nerves. And then once you are on, make eye contact. I've been working on this for 9 months, knowing where your camera is. It's just so tempting to actually look at yourself on the screen because that's providing you with feedback, or even at your client on the screen. But the reality is the most direct eye contact you can make is by looking at the camera. So know where your camera is and use it. And of course, smile. Smile, use your eyes and your expression to convey emotion and authenticity behind your assessment and your recommendations, and especially in making that connection with the client. Of course, not every situation is going to be a smiley situation. I realize we have to deliver bad news sometimes. So in those cases, you may not be smiling, but you'll still be using your eyes and your face to convey your empathy, to let the client know that you really feel for them, and that your job is to acknowledge that, but then get them on a plan towards getting to the best possible solution for their pet, or the best possible management for their pet's problem. Lastly, try going live during curbside, because that ties in with the practice piece. If you have that computer, that Zoom on for curbside appointments, and I'm not suggesting the entire appointment, but maybe just for the intake if you're the vet tech, or for the physical exam if you're the veterinarian, you will get lots and lots of practice being on video, and it will become less and less unnatural or nerve-wracking for you. Lastly, when it comes to communication, consolidate, consolidate, consolidate. Think of this word and how it applies to communication as well as to each step of your virtual process. Where can you consolidate communication, information, and even entire steps of the virtual process for you and the client? Look at the pre, within, and post-appointment aspects of the visit, and make sure that you are eliminating extra steps or repeated steps. Too often I see in the veterinary practice where we are repeating ourselves over and over and over again, or maybe, and of course I know we have to repeat ourselves a few times for the clients to intake the information and make sure that it sticks. But I'm talking more about repeating steps, inefficiency because we're maybe completing tasks more than once. Maybe the assistant's doing it and then we, the veterinarian, are doing it. So just try to see where you can eliminate redundancy. Pre-prepared handouts are another way to eliminate redundancy. We all know what the most common reasons we see patients are. So what those most common problems are, or the most common reasons that we see them, let's get some handouts going that we can email after the visit, instead of repeating ourselves over and over, and maybe even typing it over and over and over again in notes to the client. One thing I like to do is I will turn my plan that I write in the chart into the actual summary that I send to the client. So it just requires a little bit of tweaking when you write your plan section in the medical record to be able to cut and paste it into an email to the client. So just maybe a little less shorthand and a little more friendly tone, and you're good to go. It goes in the summary, it goes out to the client, and you've only done it once. And so that, being prepared, having handouts, sending emails, and keeping yourself from rambling. I don't know exactly why, but what I have found when I'm observing other vets is there's a lot of rambling at the end of the visit. I don't know if it's because we feel like we need to keep providing more and more and more, but the reality is that rambling is a distraction from the important stuff. And that brings us to our last C. And the last C is closure. Closure is really all about time awareness and management. So knowing how much time you have for the appointment, kind of keeping track of that, either using the computer or your watch or the clock on the wall, and then managing that time. One of the best ways to manage your time is to have an exit strategy. So maybe having a little script that you keep in your back pocket and you bring out when you know that you need to close the appointment and get on to maybe the actual, either the next appointment or to the action plan. Action plan is actually one really good way to have one really good exit strategy. Okay, so if you indicate to the client that you're moving on to the action plan, then it's kind of signals that we're done with the assessment piece. We're no longer kind of taking in information. We've actually taken the information in, and now we're developing it into a plan. Once we have our action plan, I do allow the client time to obviously ask any questions that they may need to ask. And after they've asked their questions, in order to wrap that up, or my exit strategy for that piece of the appointment is to indicate who's going to be following up and how. Okay, so let me just give you a little example of how that might work with this video. And the video is all about making a smooth transition.
Hey Sherry, that's great information, and because I know Vinny's history and that we've been through this before and been able to manage it at home, I'm just going to send you an email with some advice and directions on what you can do, and we'll also restart that Pepsid over the counter that we've done in the past. So I'll have all of those directions ready for you. If we need to do more involved prescriptions, or if he's not getting better, we'll just schedule an in-person visit and we'll do the curbside model where we'll come out and get Vinny without you even leaving the car. Does that sound good?
Okay, that sounds great.
Okay, well I'm gonna hang. Okay, you're so welcome. I'm gonna hang up now, and you should look for that email shortly.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye.
Okay, so, it wasn't a perfect example, but it's a great example of how you can set the client up for what the action plan is, and then what the next step might be if that doesn't work for the patient. Of course, that's really important in the cases where we're doing virtual only and we actually don't have our hands on the pet, because we all know there's a chance that pet isn't going to get better and they're going to need to come in. I also made sure to smile and say goodbye. And the last little tip I have for that is once you've gotten to that piece, once you've talked to them about who and how is going to follow up, don't ask again if they have questions. So I have found that one of the ways that veterinarians kind of lose their time management in these virtual appointments is that we offer the client to ask questions in too many steps of the process. So figure out where it is that you're going to ask the client if they have questions, and make that be the one section where that's emphasized, and then move on. If they have questions after you wrap up and after you send them the plan, I'm sure they'll email back or call back or let you know, okay? And in many cases, we also set up a callback situation where in 2 days or 4 days or 5 days, we're going to have an automatic callback generated to make sure this pet and this client feel taken care of and that everything's going okay. All right. So, it's a work in progress. Like I said, not every visit's going to feel perfect. But if you keep working towards mastering the 4Cs, you'll get on the fast track for having a successful program. So let's recap here. I'm not going to be redundant. I'm going to follow my own advice. And I'm not going to read the slide and go through all the details again, because that would be redundant. Remember, we have to consolidate and we have to have an exit strategy. And my exit strategy is to leave you with this recap that you can take in, and so that you can begin to develop your action plan for success and then implement virtual successfully into your practice, and hopefully video successfully into your practice. I also want to offer you the chance to ask questions now. And I'm going to give you a channel of communication that you can reach out for a one-on-one support with me if that is something that you feel like you need, or if you really need that step-by-step plan. Thank you so much. I hope you can take away some great learning points for both virtual and hands-on visits from this presentation.
Thank you so much, Dr. Nell. We don't currently have any questions. We can give a minute or two for people if they want to pipe in. That's so incredibly helpful. We tend to get mired in the technicalities of all of these procedures. Lots of scientific minds out there. So it is so important to take a step back and talk about the more human aspect of it, which is connecting with the patients and with the clients. So it's super helpful. You had mentioned at the beginning, there are some folks who are resistant, some because it's just too much, too overwhelming, and some because they're like, oh, this is a problem for right now, but in the future we'll go back to in-person. But I found something really interesting. We put together a blog on our Roo for You blog, www.roo.vet, where we talk about sort of the more technical side of virtual visits. And one of the most interesting things I found out, which I just felt was so worth sharing, is starting with a virtual visit leads to higher patient compliance, which seems counterintuitive. If clients are like, if I can just see them via video, why would I even need to go in, right? But in fact, they have found that once a client has completed a telehealth visit, they are 50% more likely to come for an in-person visit, which is huge. And they'll also spend 20% more money. So that's another little added benefit to this, is that we're, as practitioners, you're able to see them and say, no, they don't need to come in, or say, I have eyes on this patient right now and we need to see you. So I just think that was such a fun little side note, especially for any practice owners who are watching, that there is also this little extra added benefit to performing these telehealth appointments.
That just furthers the fact that virtual is valuable, which really is the take-home point of this presentation tonight, is that it's valuable, and that if we can make the experience feel valuable to the client, which obviously we're doing a pretty good job, then they will continue to come back to us. And in fact, they may want to take it to that next level so that they can be in our hospitals for hands-on or curbside.
Yes, curbside for the foreseeable future.
Curbside, hands-on is kind of the same thing now, but yeah, in person, I guess, would be the final step.
Absolutely. Well, thank you again. We are always so pleased to have you share your absolute wealth of knowledge. Again, our platform it kind of caters to this environment, right? Because we are entirely online. So if you are a person who enjoys the online atmosphere, you might like Roo.vet. We are free for vets and techs to use, and hospitals only have to pay when you book a shift with us. So it's really, really easy and risk-free. And of course, if you have any questions, follow up, Dr. Nell has kindly put her email address on here. You can also reach out to us and we can pass questions along. We're a big, happy family here, and we love to communicate. So
Yes.
Thank you for joining us. Thank you, Dr. Nell, for sharing this. And we hope to see everybody for our next RooLive, whenever that may be. And in the meantime, mask up, stay safe, and happy Rooing. Have a good night, everyone.